Cool. So I know you guys had probably a ton of time to chat through topics and stuff like that.
We mainly talked about what Josh was wearing.
Are you back again for the first time?
Technically the second time because I couldn't get my shit together.
I like fun little trips to the Apple Store.
Do you? I hate that minimalist stuff.
Don't listen to the peanut gallery that gave you money. I mean, if you're ready to lay it out.
What a bunch of assholes.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Cheat Code.
All right. You're back once again for the first time on the Cheat Code and Friends. And we're joined this morning by Mr. Kyle Lacy, CMO, Jellyfish. Kyle, what's up?
I am doing great. I'm glad to be here.
I'm just happy to be here.
Are you back again for the first time?
This is the second. Is this the second time I've been on?
Technically the second time because I couldn't get my shit together. Yeah. Oh, did you not pass it along? Yeah. I mean, just the regular stupidity of doing an iOS update.
Oh no. So this would actually be the third time.
Yeah, because you were season 3 or 2 or something like that. Yeah.
Well, this is the refresh now.
The refresh. Justin had some computer problems, but that's okay. We didn't judge.
Had a fun little trip to the Apple Store and everything. It was great.
I like fun little trips to the Apple Store. I'm not gonna lie.
I do not. I gotta be honest.
I very much enjoy the ambiance of an Apple Store.
Do you? I hate that minimalist stuff. Like I'm so adverse to like that modern, hyper modern, hyper minimalist.
With the trees and
How many books he has behind him?
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna sit in all. I reckon it. And your chair.
Yeah,
That's right.
This is real ostrich, by the way.
Hey,
Pissing off PETA folks everywhere.
Yeah, we started out great.
There is a zebra rug on the other end of this floor as well.
I do not condone the killing of ostriches.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of disclaimers on this one. So, and then of course I've got Mr. Josh Wagner and Sean Kester with me. Is everyone in their normal locations? Josh, I see you're in the office. Sean, looks like you're in your normal.
I'm home. Yeah, it's snowing right now. A little.
Is the construction done over there?
Construction's done. I just refuse to go and finish my office.
Yeah. Why would you do that? You only spend every day there.
Yeah, that's right.
Sweet. So, Kyle, I invited you on because obviously you've got a lot of, number one, you got the newsletter, you've written on this topic, you get a lot of opinions on marketing, which I think is something that, frankly, we struggle with in our early stage portfolio, certainly. So it seemed like a good idea to bring you on and get your take on just some things that we're seeing day to day, but, probably more globally, the space in general as well. So I guess I'll kick us off with a topic. You and I were commenting a while back on what do you call marketing these days, which I think is, also relevant to the hiring challenges that we go through in the early stage, because I think everyone knows in the back of their mind what they want, which is like some crazy unicorn rainmaker that does everything and struggles to put a title on that. But I think the comment that we were exchanging was around revenue marketers or demand gen or something along those lines. But I guess, what is marketing these days? To start off with a super simple question.
I'm actually gonna steal it from my friend Udi, who is CMO at Gong. I'm pretty sure this is his quote. I'm sorry if it's somebody else's quote. Marketing's job is to make sales easier. I don't care what you put in there, but that's the best description that I've ever found. And so there's no reason to try to reinvent the wheel. It's marketing's job is to make sales easier, whether that's product led, sales led, whether you're selling a bottle or a piece of software.
Yeah, what comes to mind, I think, is, it's just a lot easier to have a conversation when someone knows who you are, or at least knows, what you stand for, kind of your general brand within the space.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just gonna say when you say that, right? Like, so Justin kind of caught the tail end of this coming into a conversation late with one of the founders in our portfolio, who's coincidentally trying to hire a whatever VP of marketing, whatever that may be, and he made the off comment like, "Well, I mean, really, today in marketing, there's nothing more than demand generation, and what else would there be? Brand? I mean, I guess that's it, right?" And I'm like, I don't think so. But then Justin comes in and fires off some comments like, "We can't talk about this right now," but anyway, like just when you hear that, what thoughts come to your mind?
Well, look, I don't fault the founder or CEO, whoever, for saying that. I mean, marketing initially at a very early stage, marketing should be driving demand, or should be at least supporting as much as possible to drive demand. Where I think marketing breaks for a lot of founders in early stages when you bring in somebody that isn't driving demand, but is more trying to do brand. Or, I mean, brand is everything. I don't want to necessarily get into a debate on what brand is, because brand is, you know, brand is us talking, brand is outbound, brand is marketing, billboards, inbound, search, everything, right? Everything that we do. But for me, it's where I see marketing break at early stages when you have marketing come in and try to do everything other than get into the accounts that your company needs to get into in order to generate revenue. Because at an early stage, you got to find product market fit. And so if you're like just playing around with brand guidelines and design and all this stuff that is important, but is that it matters, the stage matters, right? The stage of the company matters. And if you don't have product market fit, first of all, that person probably shouldn't be looking for a VP of marketing, for what it's worth. I don't think VP of marketing should get in there until, I mean, it depends on the company, but I mean, after 5 million in ARR, or at least after you found product market fit.
Well, this is why title is so corrosive to this entire exercise, in my opinion, because if you put that title out there, you're going to get VPs or folks that are at that same altitude, and that's not what you're expecting from this individual. Josh, the problem I had with the conversation that you guys were having is that I think the outcome, or the mindset around outcome, is correct. I.e., this, Kyle, I think this is what you're saying. Like, you need to be driving tangible results. You need to be gaining interest for that business. The problem is, if you're just going to step in there and fast forward right to serving up paid ads and trying to drive conversions off of that, like, that gets back to the brand comment. Like, no one knows who you are. No one, like that hacky aspect of it largely doesn't work. And, I hate to jump right to the end, but in that business, they've already tried that and it doesn't work, right? Because it's just some general context. It's a cutting edge solution. Yeah.
Ultimately, it comes down to messaging and positioning, which is fundamental to brand, if we want to define it that way. And if you're not messaging and positioning yourself appropriately to the person or people that you want to sell to find product market fit, if you're that early, it's not going to matter who you hire. But you do, I think at an early stage, they either feel like they need a VP of marketing that will come in and not do shit, or they hire solely a demand gen marketer who does what you just said, which is run ad campaigns. And that's why it's so important, that first marketing hire, to be somebody that has a combination of both product marketing and demand. And that's, I mean, look, it's impossible to hire people in general, especially in the environment we're in today. It's just very hard. But to find somebody that can fit that, and it's not against everybody who's trying to hire marketers right now, go talk to the VPs of marketing. They might be open to saying, hey, I'll take a demand gen role. Let me get in the weeds again. I'm having those conversations right now. I'm having conversations with SVPs that want to be individual contributors now. They're just over it. The slew of things you have to deal with as a leader.
Employee management.
Yeah, employee management, managing up, stakeholder management. They've been burning both ends for 5 to 10 years in high growth software. They went through the let's raise a ton of money in 2021. Like, it's just, people are burned out. And so if you can find those people that want to get back into building but they have the experience. They have multiple series of experiences, right? Series A, B, post, pre, and post. Then great. Then find those people. Do not turn people away just because of a title either, but you got to have honest conversations.
You talk about this person's got a skill set of demand gen and product marketing, which I agree with. That's a hard person to find, period. And then if you're going to hire for your first person and you don't have a ton of budget and you're trying to find this unicorn of a person who's still willing to get in the weeds, like, where are we looking here? Like, do these people exist?
Yeah. So let's back up there. It depends on the founder, depends on who's in the seat, right? Because if they are the use case, right? If they are the persona, like I joined Jellyfish and the 3 founders were use cases, like they were the persona. So hiring a demand gen marketer because you are the person you're selling to is okay, because you don't have the skill set to be tactical on demand gen, but you do have the skill set to do messaging and positioning, right? But if you're more of a marketer that then came in to start a company, and you know that, like, it just depends on how you're balancing the skill sets of an early stage company. I just think the biggest issue people run into is that they feel like they need a title, so they go hire the title, and then the title doesn't do anything because they mishired, because they weren't clear on expectations at the beginning.
Yeah, and I think that's hypercritical, and what you just mentioned is hypercritical. Like, I think someone in that organization is going to have to be augmenting this role.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to find someone that does literally everything. And I think that's incredibly difficult to do if you have a founder, CEO who isn't willing to or hasn't done some aspect of that messaging, positioning, personal branding, and probably also hasn't seen like that marketing journey that you're describing, hasn't been part of an organization that went through those tranches, and you've seen the different components that ultimately add up for success there. So I think you have to spend a decent amount of time educating if you don't have that perception already.
Yeah, and we should have this disclaimer outside of the animals that we talked about earlier. The disclaimer is, every business is different. Every founder is different. Every team is different. Every business I've been in has needed different things. So just keep that in mind. Just because I'm waxing poetic about not hiring X, Y, or Z doesn't mean that's not what is right for you. You might have started a company that has great product-led growth and you don't need hardcore demand gen. That's fine. That's fine, right? Usually your gut instinct as a founder is right, and don't listen to the peanut gallery that gave you money. If you want me to lay it out.
What a bunch of assholes.
Oh, here we go.
No, I say that somewhat seriously, but I do think that marketing, no matter what you're hiring, we'll go back to the very beginning. As marketing is built at a company, you should see metrics that are on the sales side get easier or better. I mean, that's sales cycles, whatever. You find product market fit, find repeatability, whatever you're judging as a key result should get at least more manageable. Maybe easy is the wrong word, honestly, because none of this is easy, but more manageable.
It's funny. I want to touch on how you measure them, right? Because that's an interesting conversation. And we talked about the person who's maybe burnt out on the big managing up, managing down type of thing. We interviewed a candidate at a company, and a really interesting background, right? She came from startup, did the whole startup thing. They got acquired. Now she's managing a team of like 50 people. And like you said, the burnout thing is just crazy. Like, would love to be back in the weeds doing things. And I asked, how are you measured today? Like, what is your current department? And you measure on it. It's pure MQL, right? And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. I thought that was dead. Again, I'm just throwing things out there. So you bring someone like that back into a startup where they're going to be the unicorn hire, so to speak. How do you measure that individual?
I mean, I've argued the whole MQL thing. I do not care what the hell you call it. I do not care. I do not care what a lead is, or a market qualified lead, or sales qualified, or sales accepted, or stage 1 or stage 2 pipeline. As long as the number you're measuring maps to the business objective, the business goal, which is revenue. Expand, like retention or new, does not matter to me. I'm looking at an email right now that says new MQL alert. I'm still measuring them. Doesn't mean it's the North Star that the entire team works around, but I do not care what you call it as long as you can map what you're doing to the end goal. So it could be MQL, but if the MQL is converting at 1%, then you probably have the wrong metric.
Right. I would argue that the vast majority of the metrics that you need to measure marketing on are already in place. There are new things that need to be added because if you don't have a marketing department, you're probably not measuring NQLs or conversion to SAL, SQL, so on down the funnel, right? But to your point, sales has metrics and the business has metrics that they're already measuring, i.e., like pipeline, conversion through pipeline, customer retention, so on and so forth. Though I think if you find a marketer who is naturally already gravitating towards what are those benchmarks, how am I going to influence those benchmarks? Again, you're going to add new pieces, but that's the individual I want who really understands the business and how am I going to influence those aspects.
But I'd even go further than that, Justin. I would say, Josh, this is more a comment to the MQL thing. I think it's a lost in translation thing than it is anything else. You're just pretty terrible at communicating what the metric actually means and the definition of it. And you did not get agreement with your counterparts in the business to say, this is what it means to be successful. Marketing is very hard to measure. I'm sorry. It's difficult. It is not as easy as quota attainment and headcount capacity and all the stuff that we look at on the sales side. It is very, very difficult to do. That's why we have 500 million different attribution models, and there's businesses that I pay that help me measure that stuff, right? But usually 90% of the time, if people are frustrated, like who you were talking to that's measured on MQLs, it's probably because the communication did not happen on what it means to have an MQL and how valuable it is. That's 90% of the time, that's the issue.
But you need to take a time out and get that MQL to a salesperson like ASAP. What
No,
on here?
It's all automated now.
Oh, God.
There's
So
a
we have the technology.
So what are the things I think that makes it difficult to have a great definition of MQL because shit rolls downstream is that sales has a bad qualification process. And I see this time and time again. So they don't even know what's a qualified lead in their own pipeline, whether they generate it or not. Now, they might be SDRs are going to tell you everything's qualified. AEs that have to qualify their own stuff are going to be a little bit more strict on it because they're going to have to close those. But then they always want to bitch about MQLs because it's an open definition. And so to your point, I don't think there's enough alignment there on what is the qualified lead.
That's marketing's fault. If they don't know what a qualified lead is, that is not the sales rep's fault. If the sales rep is doing shitty discovery, that's their fault.
Well, I'm saying it's the sales leader's fault, though. I'm saying,
well, no. If marketing is owning the ICP, if marketing is owning the persona and the use case and the ideal client profile, and the sales leaders are confused on what a qualified lead is, that's marketing's fault. Now, I will say that there are cases where marketing will do everything to educate the sales leadership, and they still have no idea. I think it's a shared, I don't know, case of mutual destruction, maybe, when marketing is like yelling and, hey, we enabled them, we gave them all the information, and sales leadership is still like, this isn't qualified. I mean, that happens all the time.
I think maybe what I was touching on more specifically is at this early stage, at this first hire, like they walk into an already sales funnel where things are not qualified the way they need to be. And then they try to start throwing MQLs on there, and then CEO's pissed. And then we're like, marketing doesn't work. And we go back to school.
Because they haven't found repeatability or product market fit, which is hilarious.
That's right.
Which is all communication. I mean, it's all communication.
Yeah. I mean, I think the point there is the best metrics are shared metrics. Marketing is a discipline of influence. And the red flag I would put out for anyone hiring a marketer is where they're overly focused on metrics because they feel like they can't control anything beyond that point. That's a red flag, right? Because now you've got a siloed mentality. And certainly if you're hiring for those big executive seeming roles and you're getting folks that have been in those environments and can adapt to something that's much more fluid and much more cross-departmental, that's going to be a huge challenge for you if someone wants to own MQL because that's the only thing that they can influence.
Yeah, we can even add on that. I mean, Sean, maybe it's not marketing or sales fault. It's the CEOs because they're not managing the expectation of both leaders. They're the ones that created the company. If it's that early and sales is confused and marketing's throwing MQLs, CEO, it's your fault. You didn't set expectations appropriately.
Well, and I wonder, so that statement combined with what you said earlier, marketing, if you're owning the ICP, I find that to be a bit of a disconnect too at the CEO level. Because the CEO just has these assumptions that are, this is the ICP, sales go. And then marketing might come, you know what I mean? And then marketing might come in and be like, really, ICP is defined like this. And if we want to like really do ICP, it's here. And CEO's like, no, we already did ICP. Go away.
I am the ICP. You're wrong.
Right. You know what I mean? How often?
Which is probably true. Which a marketer comes in and says, I ran all these surveys and everything. The CEO's just sitting there like, I am the ICP. I built this thing. Right. So it's like, but again, I think like everything that we do, communication and how you communicate and how you set expectations is the majority of the job, especially internal stuff, right? Where if you don't get agreement, if you just move forward, if you just try to do what you did before and you don't communicate and you don't get alignment and all the stuff that we need to do as human beings in a business, then stuff like this is going to happen all the time. All the time. Doesn't mean you won't argue.
What does that look like?
Having like sitting down and arguing over what the ICP is, documenting it, and then actually having, I mean, I've gone as far as to send a DocuSign around that people sign.
That's the first time I've heard that one.
I mean, you don't have to, like, we have a, revenue handbook or sales handbook where you've got territory definitions, SLAs between SDRs and BDRs. I've got as far as to do a revenue handbook where it's all go to market and RevOps is owning it. Now this is for a little bit later stage. It's not for early stage, right? You can still do this as early stage, and then it helps with arbitration, which takes the majority of some leaders' time when people are arguing over whose account, when marketing's arguing over whether it's an MQL or not. You just go back to the document everybody agreed on and said, hey, we all agreed on this. Did I miss something? Because this is what the doc says, and this is what it says we should do. Do we need to like redraft this revenue handbook? As long as you have it, a lot of times, I don't know. I mean, y'all are in this all the time. I mean, a lot of times I find that people just don't document anything. It's just kind of like run by the seat of our pants because we're building something. Just take the time. And you know what? We've got robots now that will do this for you for the most part. Use the robots and use AI to do that appropriately. But I don't know. I think a lot of it's just documentation and communication that breaks down.
So I think one of the key aspects to try to be helpful from a tactical perspective here is documentation 100%. Like it's a huge missing puzzle piece in businesses of all size. I think as you trend towards the early stage, the thing I see that makes or breaks these types of teams and fosters that communication is just making sure that people are in the same rooms and in the right rooms together. And what that often looks like is pipeline meetings, sales meetings, forecast meetings, things like that exclude marketing. And that's just crazy to me. Certainly within the early stage when you've got very small teams that, aren't.
I mean, I think marketing, if you don't have RevOps and if you don't have a metrics oriented sales leader, that's a little more of a closer, which a lot of startups do. I think marketing should own that meeting. There are people that I coach where I'm like, you build a pipeline model with finance and the CEO. Do not agree to some top-down number you were given by the board. Do a bottoms-up model. I don't care how much data you have. And there are templates out there that have this information. We all know, like if you're listening, you want a revenue handbook template, I have one. I will give it to you for free. You can go copy it. We did it at Leslie at 5 million in ARR. Okay. So if you're around that stage, I've got the whole thing built out. Just change it. But I think that marketing should own that pipeline conversation because a lot of times it's just a top down number with some headcount capacity modeling and that's it.
Or if it is a bottoms up model, it's been created by finance of the CEO and the assumptions in the model are absolutely ridiculous.
or it's just AE headcount. And when are they going to hit 100% capacity? And marketing, and then that just makes everything else more painful. The budgeting process, they don't include marketing because it's all, hey, sales, how much headcount do you need? Great. Okay, now marketing, how much do you need? I've created, like, at most sales leadership that I've worked with, we can have conversations where we're like, hey, I've got this idea I want to test on the inbound side. Can I get some of your BDR or AE budget, headcount budget, to test this? And if it works, I think we should replace a headcount with this ad campaign or newsletter sponsorship, whatever we decide, whatever. But marketers, more often than not, even though finance looks at sales and marketing as one line item, they are having two separate conversations, which blows my mind. I do not understand that at all.
Yeah, and creating efficiency out of just a pure headcount model is really hard. Like, you could argue that the scale that you could create in marketing is so much better, right? Like, just the revenue efficiency.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. There's at some point where the headcount model breaks.
Oh,
because it's just not efficient, right?
So I'm curious, Kyle, like, I see that you spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and so on. I would call that, probably a combination of personal branding and passion. What is the reason for that?
Oh, man. What is the reason I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn? I've found it. I mean, it's always been personal brand. I think I started my career out doing personal branding on MySpace, which is weird. Even
Got to change that music in the background.
Did you have a cool band? Yeah.
Yeah, I designed all college friends, right?
Did you guys ever break your MySpace page?
Yes. Yeah, I did a lot of background designs that broke the page and the rain.
You're all right in HTML. We didn't even know it.
Oh, I know. That's how I learned HTML, was designing MySpace pages for bands. Like, that's how I learned it. Our first product at the agency I started out of college was selling MySpace pages to churches. And we sold maybe one. And I might have done it for free.
What wasn't in that marketing budget?
You did not identify your ICP.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at 25. I don't even think I knew that.
Yeah, if you wanted to bar churches with a demand.
Yeah, churches with more than 20 people. Yeah, for me, it's definitely a place to share ideas and information and do it in a way where I just like the type of community that's there. And it's something that's come very easily to me. So that's where I gravitate. I don't spend a lot of time on other sites. X, excuse me. X is used more for personal stuff than it is in hobbying than it is business. But, for me, it's how do I make sure I'm constantly sharing what I'm learning as much as I possibly can? And that's the goal.
And so how does that influence, just one thing, how does that influence your own opinionation when you're hiring? If you're looking at candidates that don't make investments in that regard?
It doesn't influence me on who I'm hiring.
Really? Interesting. I am majorly biased in that regard.
Now I will. It does influence me in terms of who I want to work for. If somebody because that's something I'm really good at, and I'm hoping that if I partner with a company and CEO, they can use some of this information that I've learned over. I mean, I've been paying LinkedIn Premium since I was like 27 years old. So I've been using it a long time. I've hired social media marketers that did not have much of a personal presence on LinkedIn, and they were brilliant. They were brilliant at the job.
That's like getting a tattoo from someone with no tattoos.
Yeah, but look, we can wax poetic about it all day long, but the fact is I've hired two now that were really, really good at community building. Now, they might have had more experience on TikTok and Twitter. Doesn't mean, but it's very rare.
I meant, social in general. Obviously, LinkedIn tends to be the trend there for business, but
Yeah, but I seriously, when I'm hiring, I do not judge them on their activity.
Interesting. And so what gave you the confidence just using those couple hires as an example?
The way the interview process, like if somebody, I use LinkedIn as a resume, basically. Like it's very rare I'll even read a resume, like a PDF or anything for that matter. But I think from a hiring process, the key is that the questions that you ask at the beginning of in the job rec. I I spend more time on the 2 or 3 questions I include in a job rec than I do on the resume or LinkedIn or any social.
What are those questions?
Oh, it depends on the role. Let's see, what's one that I use? This seems like something to tee up, but it's a question around failure and what did you learn?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times you can suss out when people are take their own. Usually you can tell when somebody will own a mistake or when they'll try to throw it off on somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody's not owning the failure and it was like sales' fault, I won't interview them. Like I have cut and dry. Like if you can't say you failed and you learn from it, then I'm not interested in talking to you about anything else. So that's one. And then it's really depending on the role though, on what we're asking. But one in particular now is AI. Like if you're not using it at all and you can't give me a story or tell me how you're using it, like it's going to be very, very difficult for me to hire you.
And you're looking for obviously relevance and curiosity.
Yeah. Relevance, curiosity, learning. These tools are I mean, they're changing the game daily. And if you're a marketer and you're not at least using ChatGPT for research or something, then I'm not interested because you are not evolving.
So that's a good segue. Where do you see AI having the biggest impact? I guess two prongs to that. One today, and the other in 24 months within marketing.
I mean, content production
Okay.
for sure. Content production, editing,
Content production in what regard?
all of it. All of it. One sheets, I mean, ebooks, organic, search, you can I can't debate that. I just know that we're producing stuff that's high quality that is augmented by AI. Everything that we do. So content for sure. I do think video is going to change pretty dramatically in the next year. You know, the fact that I don't need to go spend $50K on a product video is going to be amazing. No offense, videographers out there. Okay. And then for sure, marketing ops, rev ops, anything that's managing piping together of technology and the data associated with it is going to change dramatically. Because that if I'm talking to a marketing ops person and they're not like deep into AI and how it's going to change their role, I'm not going to hire them. Because it's like, or a content marketer for that. Like if you're not using AI as a content marketer, I'm not going to hire you.
Yeah, I think to qualify, and I'm curious to see how you guys deal with this, but you know, with AI, predominantly from a search perspective, like all of these content pieces that were frankly repackaging of information that's already out within the market, I just don't see that type of content performing for organizations from this point forward, quite frankly. I think I'm curious to how are you getting, it sounds like you're augmenting the unique insight, the proprietary insight, right? And then using AI to cross that amongst multiple channels. And video is a super great one. I think we've paid almost, well, geez, Josh, I think you guys might have done this at Resolutions, but I mean, what did we pay for those old like whiteboard instructional videos in like 2014 type area? Like 50, 60 grand.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think we did, like 11 grand per over a year, and we knocked out like 12 of them or something. Yeah, I mean, it was great. And that was 15 years ago. But yeah.
For me, that's a good proxy for where AI is going to have the most immediate impact, which is like where is the output something that is absolutely necessary and relevant, but the cost for production is just abysmally high, right?
Yeah, and I think we're going to find more efficiency for sure. But I'm viewing this as more of a renaissance for marketers than it is a replacement. Like, than it is like you have the ability to be more creative, to focus more on what makes you good, your subject matter expertise. Like we did an AI adoption guide at Jellyfish, and I spent 3 hours doing deep research to build the outline. And then my team spent quite a bit of time building on the outline using subject matter experts. We didn't just go do deep research and throw it in a Google Doc and use Grammarly to edit it and then publish it, right? Like, we spent time. Where I think where you're talking about, Justin, is when people just roll stuff out constantly, you're not going to get the value. But I will say that it's getting better every day.
Do you think there's a point where, those call it that proprietary insight, right? Like the thing that only you and your company can inject into the market. Do you think there is a replacement coming there?
I hope not.
Right.
I don't honestly, I don't know. I think my yeah, I think it's what I've been really struggling trying to figure out the best way to describe this. And I think that the best way is just the difference between like being illogical and logical. I think a robot or an AI, I think it's going to change pretty dramatically in general because of the technology. But I just think that illogical ideas and creativity on the marketing side is what builds brands. And Rory Sutherland has a great quote, which I say it in almost every podcast I do. It's much easier to be fired for being illogical than it is for being unimaginative. The fatal issue is that logic always gets you to the exact same place as your competitors. And if everybody's using the same technology and spitting out the same content, and hey, we're doing feature wars all day long, which is what software does right now, and you're not telling the story, like the human element of what you do and the pains that you solve, you're just going to be another company that's not going to grow because you're not making a dent.
That's where marketing got off track and has been off track for a long time. I feel like customer stories is what sells products and solutions, right? And that's where I think, that is truly proprietary. Like, you can't, hey, go make up a story about, I guess you could do that, but I don't think it would have the gravity that a real customer achievement does, and really standing those customers up, right?
I guarantee you there are marketers out there right now that are using AI to write customer stories, and then they just say they're anonymous. Guarantee you. I guarantee it. But customers are your best salespeople. And we all know that the only way that software gets to a point where it's meaningful is the repeatability and the expansion of the customer base you already have, right? You can burn all day long, but if you don't have renewals, I agree with you. I think we've underinvested in customer marketing and telling the customer story, for sure. 100%.
I think that a lot of that comes with the balance of, again, if marketing's job is to make sales easier, sales is saying, hey, listen, they released a feature, we need to talk about ours. They're going to market in this way, we need to go to market that way, right? And then all of a sudden you've got teams of 3 or 4 marketers whose only job is to do the release notes and make sure that there's a webinar around it and all of that. And then you get lost and then no one pays attention to it. So I've been personally had that pain before. And so
yeah, but imagine a world where the AI, the agent, is the one buying the software. Think about our websites when we are talking to a robot. I do not need to spend an ungodly amount of money designing a website when the robot is reading it, because the robot does not care what it looks like. Now, am I going to funnel that money into great in-person experiences? Hell yes, I am. But the reality is that this world where we spend millions of dollars on web properties to sell something, I just think that's going to change dramatically in the foreseeable future. I don't know. When
Do you
I
think sell is the right word there?
Oh man. I mean, what would you say? If it's not sell.
I mean, I think it's the same narrative that we saw. I think it's in form, right? Like the same narrative that we saw that like, oh, the buying process completely happens online. And what I believe is a fallacy there is the same thing that is going to be ultimately adopted by those buying agents. It's get me the top 3 choices within this.
And it's going to be peer, like, that's why your customers are important. These peer reviews.
Yeah.
Like G2, like that's what, like, if you search ChatGPT for software, they're pulling in G2 information, right?
Right.
But I struggle to even relate this to anything that's happened in the past because it's just so dramatic. Like the change in what the rate that we are changing as a profession with this technology, I can't relate it to anything else. I can't. Like my ability to do 10x the work I was doing a year ago with the
Pure production.
Very low barrier.
I mean, it's unbelievable. And so, I think that, but it's still, you gotta build something that's solid. But just imagine if a competitor releases a feature and you've got bots that build the thing and the bots build the thing overnight because you need the feature set. And then you have senior developers that are checking the code and launching it. That's not that far out, honestly. I mean, from what I can see, and I'm not a coder, but the reality is that that's happening.
Well, I think maybe that's the summary theme here, right? Like everything that we've talked about in terms of like who do you look for in this space? What are the jobs that they perform? I mean, it really is the ability to adapt, that flexibility, the curiosity, and just the knowledge that your job today is going to be completely different from maybe tomorrow's too quick. That's certainly, yeah. So, I mean, I think that is marketing.
With ChatGPT's recent, being curious, being creative, being a little illogical, and the idea that production will put you ahead, it doesn't matter anymore. I mean, the fact that B2C, like the B2C marketers that are using this ChatGPT technology to pull a competitor ad, throw it into ChatGPT with a picture of their product, and it rolls out multiple versions of the same ad immediately. I mean, just that is changing. Like just the amount of crap that we have to deal with now, even though we have our attention span is like not even that of a goldfish, right? Now we got to deal with more crap.
I wonder if that doesn't create again another gravity and just a desire for, you mentioned in-person experiences and the deep connection and so on. Like I think that you're going to see a lot of things, with that innovation cycle sped up completely, and then you're going to see an appetite for aspects that are very humanistic.
So if you're just listening to this, I bought a pair of shoes, Oliver Cabell. Are you wearing them? Okay, jeez. This was through
throwbacks back out, Josh.
This was through ChatGPT. I asked it, what shoes can I wear with a suit if I'm wearing a t-shirt with the suit? And it spit out a couple brands, and Oliver Cabell was one of them. I'm probably butchering that name. I went to the website, bought the shoe. I did not get an ad served to me. I did get 50 million shoe ads served to me after the fact.
After that, right? Yeah.
Because we're retargeting, because we're marketers, but
interesting.
I mean, this is a great example.
Perfect.
Like I didn't need to see it.
Yep.
ChatGPT told me which one. I went and looked. I was like, oh, those look cool. Let's buy them. And I got them today.
And I'm excited that now they're going to sponsor this podcast. And, I'm going to get those free shoes for life. This is awesome. Well, Kyle, I think that, covered a wide range of things here today. Super informative. And you really just appreciate you taking the time and coming on to gab with us.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to me.
Yep. And guys, thanks as always for joining. And if you're listening to this for the first time, for God's sakes, give us a subscription, make us feel like someone's listening to us. And we will see you once again on the next episode of the Cheat Code and Friends. Thanks all.